Hi, Zizaran here, and today we have the Balance Manifesto for Monster Mods and Archnemesis. A very contentious, that's a word, right? I'm sure that's a word. Very contentious topic in the Path of Exile community, and a lot of people really loved Archnemesis. A lot of people's favorite thing, not. But either way, I'm going to read over the manifesto. Wow, it's so short. In our upcoming 3.20 expansion, Archnemesis will be replaced with a system that is more similar to the way Monster works in the past. The issue that players often had with Archnemesis were the keyworded mod names were not fully descriptive of what they did. The mods often had multiple effects bundled, which made them harder to understand, and due to the effects that were included in a single mod, it made too many encounters too complex. The way Archnemesis rewards were set up meant that many players felt like they couldn't just kill a monster, they had to consider if they wanted to bring a Magic Find character in to maximize rewards. Okay, good. The goals of the new system are: mods do one specific thing, mods say what they do rather than have a thematic name you must learn and remember, encounters are simplified on average while retaining interesting fights, players no longer required to do annoying actions to not maximize rewards. This seems good. Now, before I read, what I always said, so I never wanted Archnemesis to go core, but if they were going to go core, I wanted them to be something they encounter once or twice a map with the entire full reward structure of original Archnemesis, and that most normal rare monsters were just normal filler monsters. That's what I wanted, and unaffected by Magic Find. Mods do one specific thing. Here's one example. The Magma Barrier Archnemesis mod did a whole lot of stuff. It started by putting a Magma Barrier on the monster, but it didn't stop there. It converted some of the monster's physical damage to fire damage. It added some extra fire damage on top, granted fire resistance, and gave some physical damage reduction for good measure. It also spammed volatile flame balls to follow you. The new equivalent modifier just puts a Magma Barrier around the monster and does nothing else. Do you know, honestly, I didn't feel like that was the worst Archnemesis thing. And the mana thing. I thought the ones that were very obvious were quite alright personally. I didn't like the immunity damage reduction stuff. That was my least favorite thing. Mods say what they do rather than have a thematic name you must learn and remember. For example, rather than Incendiary, which broke down into 6 properties, you'll now see a monster which either ignites or fire and ignite resistance, and instead of Deadeye, which did 5 separate things, you now see applies random mark, extra crits, or accurate. Encounters are simplified on average while retaining interesting fights. The pool of mods involve complex interactions, like spawning volatiles or ground effects, and have been heavily diluted by the presence of simpler mods. That means they encounter more complex fights less frequently, but interesting and challenging emergent behavior from overlapping mods can still happen, just less often. Players are no longer required to do annoying actions to maximize rewards. In Archnemesis, rewards were associated with individual mods. This meant you could tell what kind of rewards you would get in advance. In some cases, you were effectively required to fetch a Magic Find calling character to make sure that you maximize the value of the monster mod you found. In other cases, you would ignore a monster completely if you knew that it would only drop rewards that were of no value to you. In the new system, we've added a significant pool of new rewards to rares, but the reward that is on the monster is hidden and not associated with specific mods. You don't know what kind of rewards you will get until you kill the monster. Rare monsters with more mods are more likely to have these special hidden rewards mods. Hey, this sounds great. This new reward system smooths out the spikiness that the Archnemesis reward system had. Wait, this seems really good. Because even if it's still affected by Magic Find, then you would be rewarded for playing a Magic Find character, and you're never going to go fetch one. So that sorts that problem out. I'm against Magic Find existing. I don't think it's a good thing existing at all. But it's still pretty good. But there are other people who like Magic Find. The original motivation for developing Archnemesis was that the previous monsters was out of date, and many of the mods didn't have the appreciable effect under modern balance, and there wasn't a lot of interesting gameplay possible. In our opinion, Archnemesis did succeed at adding a lot of interesting new mechanics to rares, but introduced the problem described above. While creating the new monster mods, we were careful to retain the most interesting mechanics that Archnemesis introduced, but in a way that doesn't include a grab bag of other effects. I just really want to know if immunities are gone or damage reduction, because that's the least enjoyable thing. The result is a system that is very similar to what now monsters used to be like, but with a much more up-to-date content and balance. Mods are simpler and say exactly what they do, while you can still certainly have rare encounters, obscure combination that wake you up. It's a lot rarer under the Archnem system. We feel that the new system is more modern and interesting than the old monster, and is clearer to understand the heat of the combat than Archnemesis was. Honestly, this sounds pretty good. I'm hoping this is something that'll make the majority of the community happy, because more than anything for me, that's probably what's like kind of made me dread PoE news and PoE updates, is that so many people have been unhappy, which is like kind of weird for me because I've enjoyed the last 3 leagues. I hated the 3 before that. And I hated Calandra so much I barely played it. But I really hope that this is something that makes the PoE community happier. Personally, I didn't mind Archnemesis existing if they had like the full rewards and were a rare thing. And I don't think there's a massive need for generic maps to be super challenging. Like the most popular opinion is probably maps is just blasting and grinding and having fun. And you're not really expecting or wanting that much of a challenge in a map. You have extra content like bosses and other things, or even lab or delve or other things that can be challenging. It's important to just have some blasting content too. This seems like a really good thing on average though. This actually makes me way hyped for the next league, more than the last manifesto that didn't really do anything. This is very promising. So thanks for watching. Sub if you liked the video, and more importantly, try to die less than I do.